Welcome to the Remarkable Life podcast. I'm your host and coach, Caryn Gillen, and today we're talking about launches and not just any launches, but the launch of a launch expert. And so not only are we going to get the details, we're also going to learn alongside of Lacey Cribb as she shares what's been up with her launches and what's up in the launching world landscape right now. So Lacey, can you say hello and just introduce yourself and tell us what you do?
Yes. Hello. Hello, Karen. Hello, remarkable podcast listeners. I am Lacey Cribb. I'm a launch strategist and tech expert. And my whole thing is I like helping entrepreneurs, primarily coaches, run simple, profitable launches using proven launch strategies that work for them. So, really, what I get into is tailoring a launch strategy based on them, their audience, what works for them, what fits them, so that they can have a launch that they love and they can actually replicate it and feel good about. So that's the whole goal, is to launch in a way that actually feels good, exciting, enjoyable, regardless of whatever the results may be, and that can be repeatable. So that's it. That's me in a nutshell in terms of what I do.
Well, and if you've been listening for a while, you can understand why Lacey's here because the way she thinks about launching is the way I think about business in general. So, I mean, this sounds to me like the only way to launch, but I know that there's a lot of rules that people have made up about launching or that we've made up when we've seen other people launch. And I get the sense that today's going to create a lot of freedom for people.
That'll be our intention. And I was listening to your podcast as we were preparing for this podcast. And I did hear, another podcast related to launching. And, it was talking about that heavy feeling of launching and how does that happen? And it's usually when we're trying to force fit strategies that don't align with us, or we're doing it in some way that, like you said, an expectation or a rule has been applied that we don't necessarily align with our values, or the way we do business. Like there's things that I've heard in launching that I just won't do, regardless of how successful or profitable someone might tell me it is. Because the minute you try to do it and you're not aligned with it, or your energy's not there, it isn't going to work for you anyways,
Right.
even if it's
Amen to
profitable
that.
for someone else. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. So you're doing us a really, I think, beautiful favor of coming in and sharing your most recent launch experience and letting us have a little bit of the behind the scenes. And I would love you just to start that out however you want to.
Yeah, I'm excited for this. So I did run a 5-day launch, and 5 days was just something I came up with. Again, don't get stuck on numbers here.
Mhm.
You don't have to do 5 days. I chose 5 days, and I actually did it where it was a Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday start with a break over the
Mhm.
Friday and the weekend, and even Monday. And then we resumed Tuesday, Wednesday. And that again is aligning
Oh,
with my energy, because I don't like to work on the Fridays, the Mondays. I don't want to be busy on the weekends. And it gave me a chance to rejuvenate, show up refreshed for the following week. So
wait,
that was
already I'm
just,
like, you can do that? So thank you. Yes. Okay. So now we take breaks in the middle. Thank you.
yeah. We're taking breaks in the middle. We're letting people catch up. We might even be sending some thoughts to the binge watchers out there. And I actually even took the chance because, okay, I had about 100 people register for my launch, and this was through like my email list and through running ads primarily. So 100 people registered. Halfway through, I was like, you know what, I want more eyes on this. I wasn't getting as many eyes as I wanted. Like, yes, there's some strategy with the numbers and things that you're looking for with launches as well. Like, you want to get like a good, especially if it's a first launch, you want to get a good amount of data that you can actually work with and understand. So when we went into that break mode, I actually took the opportunity to run ads, a second set of ads to just the replays. And I was like, hey, we're partway through here, but there's time to catch up. And I had an additional 40 people join just for the replay access. So now in the back end of my system, I'm nurturing people that are part of the event, but I'm also nurturing people that are part of just signing up for the replays. And I'm like, hey,
Mhm.
you're here for the replays, but you can also come live if you want. And here's the details on that.
Cool.
But there was a little bit of a juggling of emails going on to make sure that I was touching the people with the same type of content, but I wasn't, repeating the type of content to both. Like it was very, very tailored and personalized based on where they came in and why they came in. And so
Hmm.
I actually found that really exciting and really enjoyable to do. So that's kind of part one of just getting people into the room.
Hmm. Well, and it has that kind of customized, you're launching to them and who they are and where they are in the same way you're launching for yourself and who you are and how it's going for you. I love that adaptability.
Exactly. And so part of that too was I was almost like in a way testing the live launch strategy where I'm showing up live, but also testing almost an evergreen strategy where they're still getting the live content like within days or hours of it going live, but it was like also testing that evergreen component to see how the data responded to an evergreen model, um, and if that would be potentially viable for the future as like an evergreen launch type of content. And sometimes that is the hardest thing when people are launching. So if we talk about like what everyone's struggling with right now, is it is getting people to register, number one, but then to actually get them to commit to show up to digest the content is number two. And
Hmm.
so, right with my registration, and what I encourage a lot of my clients to do is, if it's an event type of launch, is having a really decent calendar invite, process, depending what country you're in, that goes with the invite. So as soon as they are register for it, they're receiving an invite from you, whether it's through subscription, through something like Ad Event, which I didn't actually use for this. I used, a Zap to send them a Google Calendar invite so that it would get right on their calendar without them having to do too many clicks and
Hmm.
activities in the user experience that could like lead them to not even following through. So that
Right.
was my goal there. And I could actually see in my Google Calendar then, like how many people received it, how many people accepted it, maybes, all of those good things.
Hmm. So you're
Yeah,
really, so yeah, you want people to want to take action, but you're also eliminating as many action steps as you can from their plate.
exactly.
Yeah,
And I
nice.
have seen, just even in groups of my own, people using, for example, Ad Event. And I'm not trying to say Ad Event doesn't work well. It actually works quite well. But I have seen people not, be able to add the event to their calendars for whatever reason. And
Hmm.
so anytime that shows up, then chances are there's more people that experience the same, but don't actually say anything about it. And
Hmm.
so then the risk of them not coming to your event or showing up or saying, I couldn't find the invite, or I forgot about it, it's more likely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have definitely struggled with these things. And one of the reasons that I mean, I love that you're talking through some of the tech here because that's one of your strong suits, right? This tech side of supporting launches.
That's right. Yeah. So I do the launch strategy piece, and then I have also worked on launches, whether, my own or whether for clients doing done for you launches. I've worked with, up to seven-figure entrepreneurs on launches that have made $400,000
Mhm.
in their launches. And, sometimes they do say it can be related to the tech that is set up, like having the ways that we increase conversion rates of landing pages, having the ways that we increase show up rates, like all of those numbers come together to ultimately, meet a launch goal. So
Yeah,
that's when it can be a numbers game. You don't want to make it about the numbers, but you need to be very in tune with the numbers. You
right.
don't,
Yeah.
yeah.
I love blowing the numbers out of the water, but also it's good to pay attention to, especially launching is such a large energetic output. You want to be sure that you're at least somewhere in the ballpark of reality before you launch so that you're not spending all that energy for not enough of a reward.
That's a great point. And so when I talk about launch strategy, usually I talk about it in three elements. So there's a launch goal, there's the launch method, the way that we show up and present our offers. And then there's the, depending on what the launch goal, if it's a sales related offer, then there's probably a conversion method. Like, where are we primarily making the sale happen? And so when we're talking about launch goals, and if it's a first launch, like for the launch we're actually discussing, it was a first launch for this program, this 12-month program that I wanted to roll out. And so part of my launch goal in this wasn't necessarily to make a lot of sales. It was more about collecting the data, collecting the insight, seeing if this launch event was viable and if it was going to produce a potential outcome, if there was people interested in things. So I did things as part of my email tech to like pulse check how people were feeling. Like, are you interested? Like, we could talk about that elsewhere, but the launch goal has to be realistic. And I have had people come to me and be like, I want to work with you and I want to make 100 sales. I'm like, okay, so how big's your audience? It's like, I have 0 people. Oh, are you like, partnered with anyone? No, I have no partnerships. Do you have an ad budget? No ad budget. I'm like, okay, sorry, but this is not possible. I wish it was, because we
Yeah.
could all make a ton of money doing this stuff. But
Hmm.
unfortunately, that's not realistic. And so I like to set very, very realistic expectations with my launcher so that they aren't, expecting, to blow the numbers out of the water, or
Hmm.
to make really, to make those $400,000 launches in their first go. Like, it's not possible. It does take time, work, effort, learning, remixing, retrying. Like, it's experimenting essentially. You just
Yeah.
have to figure out a way that you can do it in a way you love and enjoy, so it doesn't feel heavy or draining every time. Like, I actually get excited about launching, and I'm
That's
excited to
fun.
do this again, taking into what I've learned already.
So what
And
have you learned already? What can you share?
yeah, so um, things I learned through doing some of this pulse checking as I was going throughout my launch to really, pull people and say, okay, how are you feeling about this offer that's in front of you? Are you interested? Is it a not now? Is it a maybe? Do you have questions? And I did have people go back and forth, and I have about 4 maybes on the fence to this 12-month program. But things was hearing was, do you have shorter options to work with you?
Mm.
Do you have other ways to work with you? And so I'm the queen of pivots. I love a
Hmm.
good pivot.
Me too.
And yeah, and one of my more successful launch clients actually did a major pivot during a launch where we had intended to sell an offer, and halfway through we're like, this offer's not landing at all. We're going to go over
Hmm.
here, and we've got this brand new offer. They drafted it up overnight on a Google Doc, put it in front of people the next day, and that was actually the $400,000 launch. Was listening and pivoting during the launch. So I've just today actually sent out what I'm calling a downsell. I didn't call it to my audience a downsell, but I was
Hmm.
like, hey, I'm listening. I hear you're asking for shorter ways to work with me. Here are some brand new offers just available to people here. I'm not releasing these publicly yet, and some beta pricing for them. And so I just sent it out about 30 minutes before we got on this call, and it already has the highest click rate out of the emails that I've sent during this launch.
I love
So
hearing that. That's so fun.
it is fun, and that's where it gets exciting. It's like, don't get halfway through your launch and be like, oh, like bad news bears. It's like, no, let's pivot. Let's like think outside of the
Hmm.
box. Let's listen to, there's people that signed up for a reason. What are they
Right.
here for?
Right.
So
And
yeah,
you're
that's
not making yourself wrong for coming out of the gate. Like, what I hear you saying is, I have an offer that's really good for potentially after their first engagement. Because a year I found is too long to offer to my market as well in the beginning. But once they've worked with me, they'll all sign up for a year, like many of them, which is really interesting.
exactly. So it's definitely figuring out, and perhaps had those people that were in this particular launch been the people that were, say, with me longer, they might
Hmm.
have converted. And maybe these people in a second launch would convert because we've gone together
Hmm.
over a period of time. But the majority of people that I was bringing in for this particular launch was a colder audience. It
Right.
was an audience that didn't know me well, doesn't know me well. So I had to nurture them, build up credibility fast. And that's what a 5-day launch can do, is help you warm up a cold audience fast. But it's not necessarily going to convert them right away into that longer term, higher ticket offer.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just love coming up with a different offer. Today I'm like creating the new Thrive cards. I'm like, this is going to be phenomenal. Pulse checked it with a couple people and I'm like, boom, there it is. New offer.
Yeah. More information,
Yeah.
better offer. I did the same thing in my last launch. I was expecting to do more people into the advisor circle, and I got 3 people into the advisor circle, but then 3 people into an offer I created mid-launch called the Launchpad, which was for folks earlier on in business who haven't had as much success or experience. And it's really fun. Like, meet your
I
people
love
where they
that.
are, help people. Launching is about helping people, right? So as much as we can get out of our own way and get the people the information that they want. I'm loving this message.
It is. And I love that you love pivoting too. I thrive on change, I think sometimes. I'm like,
Yeah,
okay, we gotta like not thrive on too much change, but
right.
because you don't want to look too, and maybe this is more in your business coaching, but you don't want to look like your business is constantly like, oh, now I'm this and now I'm that. And you're outside of a completely different niche. Like, yes, there'll be some of that when you're just getting started, maybe,
Mhm.
but you don't want to be, I don't think, confusing your people either.
Right.
Like there
Yeah.
still has to be some sort of alignment happening.
Yeah. Because I've totally been
Yeah.
confusing people for about a year and a half. But don't worry, everyone. I'm back. I coach coaches on business. We do business strategy, just so we're really clear.
Oh, that's great. I love that.
Yeah.
And yes, I had the period too where I was like, tech, yeah, okay, I could do all the tech. I could do all the tech. I was like, wait a minute.
Mhm.
No, I hate that tech over there. I'm just going to focus on the launch related tech.
Cool.
And then I was like, okay, now the launch related tech is actually just these platforms, because we all know there's like so many platforms. So even when I work with my clients, like I've had people come to me and they're like, hey, do you work with this? I'm like, actually, no. And I just will kind of turn them down. It's like it's what works for me. I could do it, but if I want to offer them, the rates that I have, like I'd have to work my butt off and probably not be happy doing it.
Right. Yeah. Nice.
Hmm.
So what do you notice? Just it seems like we're hearing a lot about the launch landscape changing and launches not doing what they used to. And what do you see out there?
I think that there's still a great way to build credibility fast. I think it's a great way to get in front of people, depending on what your style of launching is. Um, I think when they start falling flat, it's because we probably left out some key foundations or
Mm,
elements of like a business, where it's like I haven't nailed my branding and messaging. I haven't nailed the positioning or the copy for, the sales, or I'm bringing in the wrong people, or they're not at the right stage because there's some sort of disconnect happening. And then the last piece of the launch is like probably more mindset related, where it's like, how comfortable are you with selling? How much do you believe in your offer? Like, I sometimes think people just launch and they're like, I launched. And it's like, but was that a launch? Like, was that really a launch? Was there a strategy? Was there a goal? Was there
mhm.
a plan? Like, it's easy to get online and be like, hey, everyone, I'm so and so, and I've got an offer. Come buy from me. It's like,
Yeah,
that's
that's not
not
launching.
really. No. And so I think maybe there's some misconceptions of what launching actually is, and
Hmm.
that it needs to come back to like the foundations, and then go from there. Like have a strong intention, have a strong purpose, have a strong goal, so that you can, I guess, get success in it.
Yeah. Do you have opinions about or knowledge about, like, I want to launch a new freebie and I want to kind of make it an event. I want it to be like 5 days where I put it out and then talk about it and talk about whatever things related to it. And then shortly after that, I have a program launch I want to do. But does it take away that marketing capital from your community if you launch a free thing and then launch a paid offer? Or do you have any thoughts about that?
I don't think so. As long as like I would say that the free thing kind of gets them closer to the journey of like going into the longer thing, like without
Hmm.
knowing too much about it, but like just making sure that there's a natural flow or some sort of
Yeah.
alignment. And, I met with a strategist once and it's like, if you have 10 problems you solve and, 2 problems are solved by your freebie, but the other 8 are part of your program, like that can be like a really good alignment. So I would just kind of
Hmm.
like look at it from that angle where
Cool.
sometimes like if you're solving like all 8 problems in the freebie, then yeah, that might be different. But like being able to like position it in a way of like, now that you got this, what's next? And it's like, here we're on some sort of journey and flow together. Um,
Cool.
yeah. So I think it could be really good. I mean, the way that you describe it to me is almost like a live launch challenge where it's like, okay, I'm doing a live event. They're experiencing me. They're getting a bit of my knowledge. And then, leading them to this program.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
also seen some really cool, like, there's one strategy that I've seen recently that I'm like I'm really, really fascinated by where the strategy, it's called a live launch, but the videos aren't actually live. They're pre-recorded, but everything else is happening live. Like the emails, the giveaways, the homework is all live. The engagement on the homework is live, but they watch the video lesson and then they go and do the homework. So it takes away the pressure of having to like some of my clients are like in hair and makeup before they're live launching, depending on
Hmm.
like what their brand positioning is. If they're a luxury brand, then they
Yeah.
do their hair and makeup, they buy new clothes, like all of
Hmm.
those things, and it becomes a very draining process. So
Yeah. I've
um,
done one of those 5 day, every day I was on for an hour, and it was like getting dressed in that way every day. I did my own hair and makeup, but I still had to do more than I usually do. And it was a big week.
yeah, and like after it, you're like, okay, I'm gonna take a nap.
Hmm.
And so I like to keep mine casual. I'm like, okay, I don't need to like, show up with too much bling, but I do understand like the luxury brands that want to do some of that stuff. But
Hmm.
there are other ways to do it where they can
Yeah.
still experience you and they can still have the live experience. It's just not 100% live.
Yeah.
So hopefully that makes sense for anyone listening.
Yeah. What's the kind of the most interesting or intriguing thing you've seen someone do in a launch?
I'm gonna think about this one for a minute. Um, I mean, I don't know if I would call it interesting or intriguing, but the personal like messaging works really well, like where they actually have, and depending on the size of your team, right? But let's say people are registering for the launch, and then those people are being like, as they register, being zapped into like a Google spreadsheet that a VA is looking at. And then the VA is going through um, Facebook, social, wherever they can find these people and helping qualify them, labeling them then as like, this is probably a really solid lead here based on who we normally work with. And then doing personal strategic outreach messages to those people saying, welcome to the event. And the coaches will do those personally. Like the VA might say, hey, you need to connect with this person. The coach will go and connect with them. So it's not like the team doing it, because I
Hmm.
always get weird sometimes when the team is doing it. And it's like, oh, I'm, so and so assistant. It's like when the coach reaches out, that's a very powerful thing to do. And
Yeah.
so I thought that was really cool because sometimes, depending on the scale of the event, you could have 900 people coming in. But if you have people filtering and they find your top 20 and you
Mhm.
start engaging with that top 20, you offer them hot seats during the coaching sessions or live sessions or whatever else it is. And I've seen them do that post launch event too. If someone has like, for example, a podcast like you, it might be like, I'm going to take that top 20 and I'm going to bring them on for a live coaching call.
Hmm.
Um, so there's different ways that you can do it, but that's probably one of the most intriguing that I would have seen that takes like a little bit more manpower, but can be like very, very impactful.
Yeah. This reminds me of like customer service at the higher end hotels, like really taking care of
Yeah.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And you don't want to write off anybody either. Like you could get surprised by the people that don't show up on the
Hmm.
top 20 list either. Like I'm sure even in some programs, I was probably one of those people that are like, where the hell did she come from? Like she just purchased our program and we didn't even have eyes on her. And so
Right.
there's going to be like those silent buyers or silent watchers. That's probably who I am. You'll never know that I'm going to buy until I've actually made a purchase.
It's good to know people like you exist.
There are, right? So, and
Mhm.
then there's some people that need all the touch points. So it's just understanding your audience and how to work with them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there a launch tactic that you're just done with? Like, please, let's stop doing that, everybody.
Oh, that's a good question. So, okay, it's there. I got two thoughts on this. So the launch tactic that I'm not a fan of, or actually there's two. False scarcity. I hate false scarcity. Like if you're, going to talk about scarcity, like there's 10 seats left, there better be 10 seats left. I better not
Hmm.
see
Me
like
too.
something else happening. So I hate that. And then I hate like just out of the question value stacking, where it's like this program is worth like $90,000, but you're getting it for $9 or something. Like it's like,
Laughable because
like
I'm laughing.
yeah, exactly. So I'm not a fan of those. And then a tactic, I mean, I'm not personally a fan of Facebook communities attached to a launch. Like I like Facebook communities, but I do think that they're very, very like they do take a lot of work, in my opinion, to like keep
They
the
do.
engagement up, work with the algorithm. Like so, I personally don't have a Facebook community. I do everything like Zoom. So I see some people that do it. It works really well, but I've had some clients where they tested Zoom and Facebook together and like everything happened on Zoom and actually a different platform. Nothing was happening on Facebook, even though all the same content was in both places. The engagement was over here, not over here. And so when you start tracking like where your people are coming in from, and if you get really good at it and you're like, okay, I'm going to have a registration link for my ads, my Facebook, my YouTube, my LinkedIn, my Instagram, like that can tell me like how many leads are coming from each place. And
Mhm.
you maybe spend like a whole bunch of your time dedicated to YouTube, but you're getting like no leads from there. Like, is it really valuable? If you're spending time on your Facebook community and you post your registration link and you get nobody registered from there, is it really valuable? So
Right.
I just like really digging into where time is spent and like how much it moves the needle in your business, especially if you're small and just starting.
Yeah.
That was
Which,
long winded.
but it leads me to my next question is, a lot of people listening are solopreneurs, or maybe they just have an assistant, like myself. That's me. Um, and so the launches we're running are more simple. I still do everything organic. I'm not using ads. I'm just curious, what are the basics of launching for people who maybe haven't even done it yet?
Yeah. So I talk about launching in terms of like, I'll say four phases. So there's the hype phase where you're bringing in or you're finding people that are interested in like what you have to say or what you have to offer, whether you're hyping like organically or through ads, but you're creating some sort of audience. And then from there, you're taking your audience into like a launch type of event and you're saying, hey, now that you know about me, are you interested in coming to see more of what I have? Maybe it's what depending on the launch mode, it could be a free podcast series. It could be a live launch event like the 5 day I did. It could be a strategic email campaign or video series. It could be evergreen. And then from there, then it's all about just, promoting your offer, getting them familiar with what you do, who you help, what you have to offer, and then ultimately leave like doing a launch goal. So there's many, many ways that you can do that. But I would ultimately start with like getting the qualified leads or your audience, like people that you want to work with into the top of what you might call like a launch funnel to start that journey with you, to start bringing them in to your world. And so yeah, that's kind of like how I think about it. And you
Oh,
can do it paid, you can do it organic. I consider ads sometimes in my business like a personal assistant because I'm similar. I have people that help me out. I actually use like some of my family members, like my niece and my sister, when they want
cool.
to make some extra cash. And so, and I've hired out contract services too, depending on what's going on. But I treat ads as an extra assistant. I don't want to be spending a lot of time on social. So instead, I create a couple ads. I have it set up to my audiences and all that good stuff, and I run them. And one real quick tidbit is ads got really expensive over COVID
Mm-hmm.
for a lot of people, especially in the coaching industry.
Yeah.
Um, and I'm not an ad expert. I'll tell people I know how to run ads. I can help you set up ads. I can get all your tech running so that like they're running as if an ad expert set them up. But and I can help you understand them. But I'm not an ad expert. But what I'm seeing is ad costs are coming down to back to where they probably were pre-COVID. And so
Nice.
if you are considering running ads, like now is the time to kind of dabble in it, but you need to do it the right way. You can't
Yeah.
just go in there and boost a post. Don't ever do that for the love of
Don't boost your
goodness.
posts.
No.
Yeah,
Okay,
you're not
that
the
was
first
so
person
long
I've
winded
heard say
too.
that.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, there's a lot to it. But
there is.
what I like is in all of your talk about launching Facebook ads, like there doesn't seem to be any drama hooked up in it. And a lot of the times we're talking about launches and it's a big deal, it's emotional, it's whatever, but it sounds like get this down to the point of data, make really good plans and have good backup plans, listen, pay attention to your
Hmm.
people, and you can
That's
just
right.
launch. It could be easy.
You can.
Lacey said it can
And
be
you can,
easy.
it can. And I actually worked with a client in March of this year. We jumped on like a 90-minute call. She was like, you know what? I should be launching this course. I've been sitting on it for like 12 months, basically, even longer. I know she's sitting on it longer. So we got together and I was like, okay, so what's going on? And we went through the four phases, like hyping, the registration, like we talked through, and the actual launch itself and the goal. And we worked our way from like the bottom up is kind of how I like working with people. And in her head, she's like, I gotta have like affiliate links, I gotta have referral partnerships, I gotta like have all this stuff. And I'm like, why? Like
Yeah.
we don't
I've
need to
never had
have
any
all
of
of
that
that.
stuff.
And yeah, and so some people, like you said, think that these rules exist and they
Mhm.
have to do these things or they have to post on all these places. And it's like, no, we can do this if you want to like offer an affiliate payout, if this is your first launch, if you sell it, you're going to be able to tell that Caryn sent that person to me and you can send Caryn some money if you want.
Mhm. Yeah,
Like you
that's how
can
I do it. I just ask in their intake forms, like, did somebody refer you? And when they say that, I send that person a PayPal, which is really fun.
Yeah, exactly. And then they're like, "Ooh, that's exciting." And
Hmm.
so we actually removed a lot of the fluff and noise, I'll call it, out of what she thought a launch should be. And then we came up with the plan. Like I like helping people map it out on a calendar. I'm like, okay, what feels doable? What doesn't feel doable? And we talked about that. Then she actually hired me to do her sales page for her because she's like, this is what doesn't feel doable. I'm like, okay, you can outsource it and here's some options. And so I gave her some options. We did it together. She launched. She actually oversold her program. Her goal was to sell 10 seats and it was $597 for a 90-day coaching program. The price per program is another story. She was starting at 97, managed to get her to 597. That was just
Okay,
so
good.
anyway, she sold it and she actually oversold it because she wanted to cap it at 10, but she couldn't figure out how to shut the card off. And so
Good problem to have.
good problem. And so she oversold it. That was her first launch. And now we're getting ready for launch number two. And so your
Did you get
launch
her
can
to
be
raise her
as,
prices?
I don't know. That's going to be another story. We'll
Okay.
see. I think she might be, and this is something that we worked on together. It's like, what were your people saying? And there's another offer brewing based on, there's a whole set of people looking for this other service from her. I can't remember exactly what it is, but that's what her next launch is going to be, is this other offer that has spinball out of this first launch. And she
Hmm.
already knows that there's people going to want it based on the feedback she got. So that's what launching is. That is what launching is. It's about, doing something, learning from it, and doing it again.
Listening.
And
It sounds like launching is listening.
mhm. I once had it like LLL, like launch, learn, launch, or learn, launch, learn. I don't know which way it goes, but it keeps doing that over and over and over.
Yeah, it's a cycle. Absolutely. Well, and that's
Yeah.
one of the things you were talking about earlier. Like you want to have some consistency of your niche. You want to have some consistency of the programs you sell so people have time to ingest, digest, decide. Some people take a really long time. And if we can stay consistent enough, they'll eventually join us.
Exactly. And don't
Yeah.
throw it all out the window after one launch.
Right. Yeah.
There's so much data there that, and this particular client was actually prepared to do a complete pivot away from what she had built. And yeah, and we, talked to her, I talked to her and we convinced her that, this is the path that she wants to be on. It's just
Mhm.
and this is where your business strategy, and maybe I think you're even like in the mindset area, which I hate dealing with mindset. I'm not a mindset
Send them my
coach.
way. Yeah.
I know, right? And it's like there's something going on here where she gets so close to executing that it stops. It's like, afraid to almost like move forward to make that success. And
Mhm.
so
Hitting
there's
her ceiling
apparently
on
that,
her upper limit. Or hitting
yeah,
that. Yeah.
exactly. And so I do see that quite a bit with people launching. I do see like quite a few mindset issues that
Mhm.
impact launch success. And it can be that could be probably one of the most challenging things as a launch strategist that I sometimes come up against is when people have the mindset issues associate with being able to actually implement the plan that we put together.
Yeah. Well, we can
Mhm.
talk more
Being,
about options
open.
for that.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any last nuggets from your own recent launch experience that you want to share before we wrap up?
I'm trying to think about that too. I love having a good polished looking launch. I think that's important in like the online presence stage that we're in now.
Mm.
People will tell you, you don't need a website, you don't need this, you don't need landing pages. But I do feel like there is a time and place where you need to have a little bit of online presence to show that
Hmm.
you're legitimate, that you have a face, that you're a name. And people can learn to, trust you or know you. So I wouldn't shy away from that. If anything, I would like at least have your domain secure. So if people search you, that you're searchable, you're findable, and people can
Yeah.
learn about you and you look legit.
Yeah.
So
This day and
that's
age,
kind of
not being able to find someone online would be kind of weird.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And sometimes, I mean, if people are between two coaches and one has a strong online presence and the other one doesn't, like not because one's better or worse, it's just what
Hmm.
people have to look at. It's
Good
like a
point.
resume. It's your online resume now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Okay. So if there's a coach listening and they're like, oh my God, I need to work with her, how would they know they're at the right stage of business to utilize your services?
That's a good question. I primarily work with coaches that are ready to launch a program or offer. So ideally, you have a solid idea of your niche, you have an understanding of who you want to work with in terms of an ideal client, and that you have an offer that is brewing, that is ready to come to fruition. And it's all about now moving it into the next stages of reality and actually filling up that offer, bringing in clients into your business through launching. And those would be the ideal people that would work with me.
Perfect. That makes sense.
Mhm.
Amazing. Because I mean the thing I'm hearing under that is like launching doesn't save your confusion or you're not knowing what your business is. Launching only works, just like ads only work when you're really clear.
I love how you put that because yes, that is true. Like if people come to me and they're like, I don't know who I work with or I don't know who
You can
my
save
ideal
me.
client is. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
no, we're not gonna no launch, no tech is gonna save you from that. So there's some,
Hmm.
business foundations that you need to have in place first. And I
Yeah.
love chatting with people about the business foundations, but it's not where I want to spend the time. I want to see them bringing their offer to the table and putting it out there to the world.
Yeah. You're such a good example of someone who's really owning their strengths and where they want to be. So I appreciate just seeing that in you. It's refreshing.
Thank you. It's taken some work to get here.
Yeah, it does. It really does. All right. Well, why don't you tell people where they can find you online so they can hear it, and we'll also put it in the show notes.
Yeah. So you can find me at laceycribb.com. I'm also on Facebook, Lacey.Cribb, and I'm on Instagram, Lacey.Cribb as well. So you can connect with me in any of those places, and I'd be happy to chat.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much for being here and talking about something that you appear to be very calm about, but other people tend to freak out about.
Thank you. Thank you, Caryn. I appreciate it.
Thank you.